live on Aired Out at 7 minutes after 2 o'clock. Thanks for being part of the experience here at Aired Out. I'm J.D. Green. Raylene Minier is right next to me with Dottie Moffitt. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome back, Dottie.
Thank you for having me.
So you just drove, like an hour
About
plus?
an hour, yeah.
In the rain?
In the rain.
How was it on the interstate? Kind of crappy?
Really crappy.
Yeah.
Really.
A little bit of hydroplaning?
Yes, a lot of water pooling and kind of feels like Florida out there. It's humid,
Is it
but
foggy?
raining. A little foggy, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about a lot of serious things today, but first off, right off the top on the list, let's talk about the serious matter of the fact that Raylene is not she's not following the Red Sox very carefully. She didn't even know what the score was last night or anything. I mean, it's just,
I follow them on her page. That's how I know what's going on.
I tried to ignore them yesterday as well, but it didn't work.
Do you have the handbag right there?
I
close
don't.
by? Oh,
It's over there.
So you got the Red Sox handbag.
Yep.
We got the Red Sox mask.
Yep.
And jacket.
And jacket.
The jacket.
Tattoo. It was my
What?
first tattoo was
Can
a
you
Red
show
Sox.
us the tattoo?
It's down on my
Oh,
ankle.
it's down on the ankle.
It's a little bee with a daisy through it because my grandmother loved daisies, and she was the one who taught me to be a Red Sox fan.
All right. What else? Shower curtain, toothbrush holder, floor mats.
Oh, my gosh.
Come on. Glasses?
Magnets, stickers, glasses, plates.
Plates!
My office when I worked inpatient was just all Red Sox stuff. And I would have patients who were Yankee fans that would come in, and I would tell them they were beyond help, that I couldn't help them.
Yeah. Now, do you listen to the Red Sox on the radio and watch it on the TV at the same time? Different, or is it all TV?
Well, if I'm home, I have it on the TV.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting outside, I'll have it on my phone on the AT&T app. If I have a radio preset in my car, when I got my new car, that was the first radio station I put in. Was the one that carries the Red Sox games. If they're in the playoffs, I eat the same thing through the entire playoff because, the fact that I have a veggie grinder with no lettuce in 2004, and they won their first game against the Yankees in the playoffs. So I have the same thing every playoff game.
If they go into the playoffs, do you bite the fingernails?
Oh, God, yeah.
You do? Okay.
And I don't move. Like if they start to win and I'm sitting in a certain spot or something, sometimes I get caught out in my vehicle I don't move.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because that'll mess up the mojo for them.
It's only weird if it doesn't work, right?
Do you, if you miss a game, do you go back and listen to it or watch it afterwards?
Yes.
Oh, boy. We got a serious issue here. Have you thought about the cataracts, about the Red Sox cataracts? Just the emblem, right?
Yeah, that's true. I could probably get some contacts with the Boston Bee
with the bee
right
on
in
it.
the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should Google that. Figure that out. All
I
right?
sent her the book.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And-
From Eric Gray.
Yes.
And I read
Bases
that
to
on the
Bleachers.
bus to opening day this year.
Did you read the whole book?
Most of it. I mean, I've read it all now, but most of it on the bus ride down. I had a special
opening day.
baseball playlist that I listened to on the way down, and
Did you like the book?
I did.
It's amazing.
I love stories about. I wrote a story. Well, it wasn't a story, but they Facebook page I follow years ago asked us to write in if we could go to the game with somebody, who would it be? And I wrote about my grandmother and her love for the Red Sox, and she had passed, I think, maybe the year before, and I ended up winning the writing contest. So to read that book and just to know that there are so many other people out there that have such personal stories linked to baseball, no matter what the team is. There's something special about baseball.
Well, a lot of that book has nothing to do with baseball, which is amazing.
The relationships.
Yeah, it's relationships. That's all.
Yeah, and that's really, baseball does build that.
So I was doing a little bit of homework on you this morning, and you've already been on the podcast once before. And I'll tell you, folks that are tuning in right now, wait until you hear what this lady has to say. You studied SPED.
Yeah,
And what is that?
Originally went to school for special education and elementary school education.
Got it.
Wanted to be a teacher, never wanted to work with adults. And then when I got my job working for the Department of Corrections, I realized I enjoyed working with adults.
Interesting. And you got a degree in psychology.
Yep.
And you're now an outpatient substance use dependence therapist.
Yes.
Is there an acronym for that?
SUD.
That's the SUD.
Yep.
Wow. That's a mouthful. What does that mean? What is that? So
it's working with people who have substance use problems, any substance. We're trying to get away from addiction because it's been used in such a derogatory manner. So substance use just, it's talking about, it's not labeling them.
right.
It's more focused on what the disease is.
Sure. One of the things that Raylene and I said to each other a long time ago, and we still say to each other, is that part of our mission here is to smash and
Stigma.
completely destroy, stigmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, I think we're doing a damn good job.
I think
I
so.
agree.
I
You have
mean-
a lot of good people on this program that are educating through what they come in
Right.
and talk about.
Just getting people to have a broader perspective of what they see, hear, think, feel, all of that. Raylene had a great point earlier today about Dr. Rick Barnett and Paul Brody and you. Why don't you repeat that? Because I think it's really notable.
Yeah, all of the different ways in which you counsel they're all very different,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all very much needed, and they cater to different people and different needs, because not everybody that has a use disorder is the same, and so what works for one might not work for the other.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And when I meet with my clients for the first time, the first conversation I have with them is I ask them to give me a few weeks for us to be able to meet. And then if they decide I'm not their cup of tea, that is absolutely okay. But what I want is for them to be able to have an honest conversation with me about that, so that either I can try and change my approach to better fit them or help them find a therapist. Because the last thing I want is for somebody to not connect with me and then just sort of disappear.
And can that
not
happen
get
with
help.
you as well, where you may not connect with a patient, and so you feel that maybe they would do better with somebody else? Has that ever happened where you felt like this person needs a different approach than what I can offer, so I'm going to recommend this?
I don't know that that's happened with me yet personally, but I do know other people who have done that, and I think it takes an extremely strong therapist to be able to say, I don't think I can serve this person and do right by them. Because we have a small amount of time, to capture somebody when they first come into therapy and to make them want to come back the next week and the next week and the next week. So we really have to look at all of that. Am I going to be able to meet their needs with, what my background is, what my education is? Are they going to connect with me? And, if not, it's my desire to help them find somebody else if they feel like they don't connect with me.
Yeah.
I can never let my ego get in the way and, try to think, well, what's wrong with me? Why, you're wrong. I am good enough, and we're going to keep pushing through because I'm wasting precious time where they can be getting help.
Of course. You seem like, correct me if I'm wrong, you seem like the type of person, and I could be way off here, where if I were to come in and see you and started blowing some hot air, that you would call bullshit flat out and tell me, "Hey, man, you're wasting my time. Stop giving me your bullshit, and let's get down to the skinny here." Is that kind of?
I'm Irish, so
There you go.
we're a pretty upfront.
I'm looking at your face and your these little eyes, and I'm like, shit. I'm not going to get anything past this lady. Am I kind of?
Yeah, I think a lot of that developed from working inpatient because you just have 3 weeks, 2 weeks with somebody, and there isn't that time to try to you have to get to know each other really quickly.
Sure.
And if I don't call somebody on behaviors or actions and hold them accountable, I'm not helping them, in my opinion. Because again, as therapists who work in the substance use disorder field, we don't know how long we have with a client where they're receptive to wanting to get help. So we dive in and, we kind of have to move fast to hook them in and hopefully get them to stay.
Now, you're diving into waters that are really murky and dirty, and there's a lot of shit in there. And what kind of, do you have any personal life experience with addiction or recovery or anything like that for yourself?
Family. It's I've seen a lot of people struggle with it. And the thing that I see them struggle most with is what are the underlying causes, because if we don't get to that, then it doesn't matter how many days they don't use or drink. If we aren't able to get to the root of why they're using or drinking, that relapse will happen quickly.
And that's the unfortunate part of some of the inpatient stuff is they have such a short time to make a difference. And then to be able to set up aftercare and know that that's happening. And, I would love to see an inpatient facility that kept somebody as long as they needed to be there.
Period.
But let's face it, it's far from being that way.
Yeah. It seems like from the outside looking in here, and I'm very much on the outside, and I could be completely off base here, but it seems like what I hear is that folks will go into these dry tanks or rehab centers or whatever you want to call them, and they're treated symptomatically. You're talking about the foundation of the problem, and maybe they try to get to that while they're there. I really don't know, but just simply not having booze in your system or drugs in your system for however many weeks, getting yourself detoxed, you come right back out. You're right back to your old life with a network of people that maybe you call friends, maybe you don't call friends, but for whatever reason, that's the circle that you're kind of stuck in. And man, your phone's blowing up, you're getting text messages, and you're back to that lifestyle, that temptation, whatever it may be. And we've gone back to the beginning here. We've gone full circle.
Yeah, and I want to go back.
That sucks.
It does. What you said about getting into treatment and doing the detox. Often people will just be a few days in, and that addictive mind starts to kick in. That addictive thinking, telling them you don't need to be here any longer.
Right.
You've got it all out of your system. You can leave, and it's very important when people are going to be going into treatment that they understand that there is that possibility that their mind is going to start to tell them, you don't need to be here anymore. You've gone 3 or 4 days without it. You can leave and you're going to be fine. Because I would see that happen over and over and over again. And, you know, I was talking with Raylene about, you know, that just this disease, if somebody was if I was diagnosed with cancer tomorrow, I'm going to be beating down the doors of doctors' offices to find the best care for myself. I am going to listen to what they tell me to do. And that isn't the same with a substance use disorder, because that addictive mind tells them you can do it on your own. You can wait. You don't have to go in right now. And that the people who might know something about this disease aren't really going to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the tough part.
Yeah. Right.
Is recognizing that. And I think, you know, the question I posed to Dottie when we got in that conversation was, I was a little upset in not understanding how it is said often that you need to put treatment before employment. And that bothered me greatly, because I thought that employment should be key, and it could somehow have to be part of the recovery. And maybe it can be, but not at first, and not until the work was done to actually be in recovery.
Right.
And so that's what she said to me. Would you miss a chemotherapy appointment for work?
Right.
Which would you choose? And so you have to choose the same thing when you're trying to recover as an addict. You have to choose your therapy over work. And then it made more sense to me. And then it was hard for me to be angry anymore, because then I understood when it was put to me that way.
Yeah. But I think the argument on the other side is that to be able to survive and function and have food, have basic shelter, transportation, gasoline, car insurance, a license from the state, a driver's license, and so many other things, that you've got to have that job in place first. You've got to be able to survive.
And until you're well, you won't survive anyway.
And you got to have that first and then work on the therapy second. I mean, there's lots of opinions on this. Lots of opinions.
It's definitely a tough.
Because if you don't have the basic, the shelter, the food, the water, the survival things in place, whatever, you're living in a tent somewhere, and you're getting damn good therapy, but you're disconnected in so many other ways. That's not good either.
But see, that's where I see if we can work on ending the shame and stigma around this disease. I'll use cancer as an example again. If I was diagnosed and I went to my boss and said, listen, I have this diagnosis and I'm going to need to miss work once a week for 6 weeks so I can go get my treatment.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, you generally don't get employees that say, or employers that say, okay.
With addiction.
But with cancer, they would say, okay, I'll do whatever I have to do to help you.
And
now you're really starting to hit on something.
So that's why, I am not quiet about working on ending shame and stigma around this disease, because people should be able to go and talk to family, to friends, to employers, landlords, wherever it is they may be having some trouble due to their disease,
Yeah.
and ask for help without worry of being talked about, shamed, or stigmatized.
Yep.
Kicked out
Or
yeah,
removed
put on the street
or removed from their position, and of course that puts some strain on the employer. I mean, they've got to figure out what to do for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever it may be.
But if you can let somebody get well, there's a good chance you are going to get back an amazing employee.
There you have it. There you have
Yeah.
it.
And especially because they will be grateful for the opportunity that you were willing to give to them.
Right.
I mean, that's huge in itself, to give
Loyalty.
to give anybody, but especially somebody that has been struggling, to give them a sense of self-worth, which my opinion a few weeks ago was self-worth was only gained through being able to work, and that's why that should come first. But the self-worth of just being well is what is most important.
That's right. Well, that's the one that's got some legs to it, some traction that'll stick around. You're right. You have a great point there. No question about it. So tell me a little bit about your time in corrections. What was that all about?
I worked for the Department of Corrections. I was hired as a special services teacher. So my caseload was ages 15 to 22, but I would teach classes that anybody could come to. So, I did a lot of work with high schools in the area, getting syllabus, books, that sort of thing. While I was a part of the Department of Corrections, we actually went through the process and became our own high school. So the Community High School of Vermont was born while I was there and a part of that. And that was just something incredible to be a part of, because it then put schools in every jail in Vermont, so that if somebody started out at the Woodstock jail where I was and then got transferred to Newport, they would continue their schooling. It was put into the probation officers. So people who struggled in school for whatever reason were able to now get their high school diploma, which, when you get out of jail and you can check off that box that you have your high school diploma.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
It's massive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
enjoyed the teaching part of it, but I came to learn that what I enjoyed the most was when one of my young students would just sit at my desk and talk about their life and what led them to be in jail at 16, 17, 18 years old.
Are you fascinated by that?
I'm fascinated by people.
Yeah.
I really am.
So am I.
My mother used to tell me I was nosy. And not in a bad way, but but I feel like I found a career where I can be nosy, and it's
Right.
okay.
You can
It's
ask a million
expected.
questions. And,
And I love to get to know people and their life story.
And they all, it's all, you haven't, this is not a cookie cutter thing where you've had the same person in front of you that maps out the same story here. Everyone's got a different and unique situation. You've seen all walks of life, right?
Yep. And
Businessmen, women?
any job, an addiction doesn't discriminate. It is an equal opportunity life destroyer.
Have you seen a good cover-up job? Client sitting next to you that's, got the suit and tie on, seemingly really has their shit together?
And those are some of the people that are hurting the most because they have to keep this facade up, whether it's for their job, their family, or because they're just not ready to come to terms with how their use or drinking has impacted them. So there are people that are functional for a while. Functional doesn't last forever.
Right.
Addiction can convince you functional will last forever, and that you can, have a few drinks in the morning, sneak some at noon, and then have some when you come home, or use a few bags in the morning to get yourself out of bed, some maybe at lunch, and then I'll work a good day and then go home, and, but eventually that train derails.
Yeah. Raylene, you know the rules here. If you just there are none. So
Yeah.
if you want to grab the wheel and interrupt me, just jump right in there,
will.
babe.
You know I will.
I know you will. I'm curious, and a lot of this is curiosity. What do you see in the most of? Is it booze? Is it pills?
It's a good mix right now. It's some of it's regional. In the Hartford, Vermont, Springfield, Bellows Falls, over into sort of Lebanon, Claremont, Cornish area, bath salts are used quite a bit. But when I worked inpatient, I wouldn't see people from Barrie or Burlington or Rutland coming to treatment for bath salts. So for some reason, it's in that region. And it, meth has made a resurgence. There's very little heroin left. It's fentanyl. But I was looking through some statistics today, and the amount of alcohol use increased quite a bit during COVID. And one of the studies I read, 41% of the women that they surveyed drank 4 or more drinks a day during COVID, which they hadn't done prior to COVID and the shutdown. And, and if you think about it,
they were home.
They were home. It was mostly moms that were home taking care of their kids, making school. They're doing their homeschooling.
Sure. Tons of stress too.
Tons of stress, and there's there is a mommy wine culture that's out there. That
damn straight.
Played into that. I think
Absolutely.
I read that online orders of alcohol increased 262% during COVID.
Wow.
And, there's 95,000 people a year that die from alcohol-related diseases. And then there were 93,000 people that died this past year due to overdose. So that's over 180,000 people that are dying due to a substance use disorder every year in this country. So no matter what the substance is, that shame, that stigma, the inability to talk about it, it hits no matter what someone is using. And we need to do better. We have to do better. That is a lot of people to lose.
Do you think that, broad question here, that America is winning the war on drugs?
I don't think that there's a war on drugs, because I think when we say war on drugs, that makes us look at people who have a substance use disorder as the enemy. Because we don't go to war with our friends or against our friends.
Or our family, or,
Interesting.
So,
have you ever seen the I may have asked you this last time you were on the air. Have you ever seen the documentary, The Business of Drugs?
I don't think I have seen that
on
one.
Netflix. Have you, Raylene?
I haven't.
You two ladies, you got some homework to do here. Come on, please.
I'm surprised, because I do enjoy watching documentaries on.
Look me right in the eye and promise me.
I promise you.
Promise me?
If the Red Sox suck tonight, I will change the channel.
Raylene, promise me.
I promise.
Yeah, The Business of Drugs. It's fascinating, and it breaks it down. Each episode is a different drug, but how it comes into the country, how it gets distributed, the value of it, how it goes up over physical distances. It's amazing. It's fascinating. We have the synthetic drugs, and we have we have a culture that is basically saying marijuana is not a drug anymore. I mean, there's a real shift going on. It's a real shift happening.
Yes. And
then a lot of the pro-marijuana folk are saying, listen, don't be worried about this drug. What you need to worry about, Mr. Government, is alcohol.
Drug. Yeah.
Is alcohol.
Yeah.
That's a bigger drug.
And like any substance, there are some people who can use pain medication and they're fine.
Yeah.
They're not going to become addicted to it. or dependent on it. And I know people who, smoke marijuana. They may do it occasionally. I know other people who get very sick because it can destroy your stomach. It can cause vomiting, nausea. So it, like any substance, it's what's good for one person may not be good for the next.
I think Rick Barnett's said the same thing.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to see any of the podcasts with Rick Barnett?
No, I haven't.
You'd love it.
I will watch
Yeah,
them.
he's a good guy. And he is trying to introduce psychedelics, correct?
Yeah.
Into
Started the
Oh, I
Vermont,
did see some of his.
Mhm.
Yeah.
the Vermont Psychedelic Association, I think it
believe
is.
That's what it is. And as part of the treatment. And
There was
again, that's not what you don't use, or that wouldn't be your first method, but you're not opposed to a medicated assisted.
No,
recovery.
and there's actually there was a good article a few months ago. I don't remember if I think it was Vermont Digger, or it could have been 7 Days out of Burlington, about brothers who used psychedelic treatment for their mental health and their substance use disorder.
PTSD, whatever it may be. Yep.
And, again, it's finding that way that we can help people so that they're not dying
Right.
from this.
Mhm.
And I don't have an issue with medicated assisted treatment. Assisted treatment. If Suboxone works for them, then good. I'm glad. If Vivitrol works for them, I'm glad. If methadone is what works for them.
To avoid the end-all be-all, which is death. And
Right.
you've seen plenty of it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you not?
Yes.
Over how many years? Approximately.
Oh, I think the first person I knew of, my daughter graduated high school in 2010, and it was one of her classmates who I believe died the summer after they graduated.
From an overdose.
From an overdose.
Of what drug?
Heroin.
Amazing. We had a 15-year-old right here down the road, a couple 100 yards from here, who died from an overdose of heroin. 15 years old. Blows my mind. I can't even begin to fathom that. I don't understand.
I think the youngest person I have on my list for the Vigil is 13.
So tell me about the Vigil. I mean, the Vigil is of course remembering those that we've lost from overdose. This career, if you will, it's really who you are. What you do is who you are.
Yeah.
Has reaped some rewards, but it's also been very taxing on you emotionally, mentally. You've been through the gamut of some pretty hardcore shit.
Yeah, I've seen some high highs and some pretty low lows in this field of work. But when you see somebody doing well, and again, that's relational. For somebody it could be 24 hours, and you're going to celebrate that like they have 10 years clean and sober. For someone else, it could be you're celebrating their 1 year, their 5 year, whatever it is. And those, to see somebody take their life back.
Yeah.
And begin to live in the way that they were meant to is what makes it possible to go back to work when you've had those difficult days. And, you don't go into therapy wanting to lose a client or a
Right.
patient. But that's the reality when you work with a population, just as somebody who does hospice social work,
Right.
somebody who works on an oncology ward. That there will be great days when somebody gets to ring a bell because they're in remission, and there will be absolutely horrible days when you have to come to terms with the fact that you've lost somebody that you've worked with for a long time.
Sure.
And sometimes it makes you just fight all the more harder.
Yeah.
You just fight harder.
Right.
You have to dig deeper
Yeah,
within
and
yourself and say, no, I'm doing this.
Yeah, and I allow myself that time to cry and to grieve, because they were a part of my life. They were a part of my professional life that I saw, whether it was inpatient and I saw them every day, outpatient and I was seeing them weekly. They were a part of my life. And we aren't robots as therapists. We need to be able to have that time to grieve the patients that we lose.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that you try so hard, you invest so much into someone, you're believing in them, you're feeling great, things are going well, and then they overdose and die, and I mean, for me, I would get maybe to the point of, maybe this just isn't for me. This has taken me on a roller coaster here, and I just don't know if I can handle it. I mean,
and that's where self-care comes in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, for me, I love to read, because reading from the time I was a kid could transport me to different places. So I don't know. I think I've read 13 or 14 books so far this summer. I find things, or working out, spending time with friends and just not talking work at all.
Or watch the damn Red Sox.
Or watching those damn Red Sox.
Yeah.
Lately...
They better get it together.
I'm going to go down there. You talk about my eyes that might be able to read, give messages to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple of Go Yankees comments here, which is just horrible. But are you able to unplug when you watch the Red Sox or read a book? Can you shut off?
I've gotten better at it.
Ooh.
I've gotten better.
Talented.
Outpatient makes it easier to unplug.
Right.
For sure. And so, people that work inpatient, they deserve all the respect in the world, because I know how difficult that was, and it was difficult to unplug. But I do. It's not to say that I don't have moments, because I'm human, where, if I was worried about somebody during the week, and I might, find myself thinking about them over the weekend, or just hoping that they're doing okay.
Or worrying about them.
Or worrying,
So where do you work right now? What's the parking lot that you're pulling into?
Home.
Okay. Working for who?
Counseling Associates.
Out of?
Well, we have offices. I wrote this down because last time I said a couple of wrong. We have offices in the Upper Valley, a new office that opened in Hanover in the Nugget Building that is doing some specialty work right now with anxiety, which is wonderful. We have an office in New London, an office in Claremont, an office in Newport, and we have a new office that's going to be opening up in Plymouth, New Hampshire.
Okay. Wow. I got a comment here. Dottie is a true warrior. Ask her about the letters that she asked inpatients to write to themselves, and what she did with those letters.
Oh, I would, before they left treatment, I would have them write themselves a letter to themselves in 6 months. So kind of as a reminder, well, they took, one was, I would have them do a rainy day letter. And that was, I would give it back to them in a sealed envelope, and I would write on it. And that was for them to open if they were struggling. So if they got out of treatment and they're having a hard time, they'd open the rainy day letter as a reminder of the work they did in treatment, what they wanted for themselves when they got out, and what they could do to stay sober. And then I would have them also write a letter that I would mail out to them 6 months after they left treatment. And I would write a note on each one of those, just, I hope you're doing well. If you're struggling, remember, you can reach out to us, pick something that they worked on while they were in treatment, or something that I remembered about their stay, and put that in the letter as well. And then I would mail those letters out when it hit the 6 month mark.
See, I'm imagining myself as a patient right now, and I'd be saying, I ain't writing you no letter.
But they did.
because you're going to be reading it.
Yeah.
Did you read them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they knew this going into it.
Yeah, they knew that I was going to read it.
Did they have to share their letters with anyone else, or just you?
Nope, just me. The letters that were going to be sent back to them. But then we did other letters where they would write to their addiction, they would write to their sobriety, their addiction would write back to them. Sobriety would write back to them.
Family
members would write into their addiction, and I would read those. And those were incredibly powerful groups because the patients did not get to read those letters before I read them. Obviously, if they were letters that were just going to be slamming the person, they didn't get read. But so they got to hear how their substance use was affecting the family. And also, the letters always ended with what their hope was for their loved one that was in treatment.
Anybody write you something that directly that you didn't find until after they overdosed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've saved all the letters, the thank yous.
More than one?
I've saved all that patients gave me when I worked inpatient. I had a bulletin board that I would hang them on because it was a reminder that on the hard days, I do make a difference. And I was grateful that I saved those letters because some of them were from patients that I lost. And so I got to read those letters, and while feeling absolutely sick about their overdose, know that through reading that letter, they had hope for themselves. And I don't feel that hope ever goes away. Sometimes it gets buried, but that person at some point in their life
had hope,
saw better for themselves, had hope for themselves, and did what they could until they couldn't do it anymore for whatever reason.
Yeah. Is there one letter that stands out more than any other?
They all have meaning to me.
What's the Vigil about? Who started this? How long ago did it start, and where is it?
So we started 6 years ago. We had multiple overdoses in the Upper Valley, which we also just went through about 2 weeks ago. I think we had
flare up
5 overdose deaths within 4 or 5 days. So we started this because a group of us were really tired of the comments that, when it would be posted about somebody dying due to overdose, they deserve to die. Pieces of shit, Darwinism, waste of life, on and on and on. And so a group of us were tired of that, and we thought, what can we do? And the Overdose Awareness Day was coming up, and so we naively were kind of like, whoa, we'll put together a candlelight vigil. And I think we had 2 weeks to do it or something. And we pulled it together, and we bring in people to speak who are in recovery. We have had people speak who've lost loved ones due to addiction. We have community resources come in and set up tables. So, we've got places that do counseling, places that do MAT. We've got the homeless shelter coming to talk about their services. I had somebody from, we have a turning point in the Upper Valley, so they will come. But I had somebody today from the Springfield, Vermont turning point reach out to me and ask if they could come and set up a table with information. So it gives people the opportunity to see what is available.
And there are
for
EMTs
help.
and police officers as well.
The police, in the past, Chief Caston, who's no longer our chief, he would come and speak about the Good Samaritan clause, that if you're with somebody who's overdosing, Narcan them and call for help. Don't leave them. And you're not going to get in trouble. And then we would have EMTs that would just come and be a presence there, firefighters, police officers. And it was good for the people who struggle to see those officers there as people who wanted to be a part of this, that maybe they're not the enemy. And it was really good for the police officers and the EMTs and the firefighters to see people who are doing well, whose lives they may have saved multiple times.
Yeah.
And so they really get to see that their hard work is worth it too.
Show us that, because I have never seen that before.
So this is out of the package is Narcan. The Vermont Department of Health is doing an amazing campaign right now to get Narcan into the hands of people. That is one thing we also do at the Overdose Vigil is we have a Narcan training and we distribute Narcan. And, you know, if
it's a nasal spray.
It's a nasal spray. If you think that somebody has overdosed and you just do squirt, squirt in the nose, you push here.
Yeah.
I carry multiple things of Narcan, doses of Narcan with me because one is often not enough anymore. And the thing with Narcan is, like, if you see somebody who you're not sure, did they overdose? Did they not? Should I do something? This isn't going to hurt someone if they haven't overdosed.
Just wondering that.
So always better to err on the side of caution.
Okay. This is a very controversial thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
And something so tiny, right, is so controversial because it saves the lives of people who other people think aren't worth living.
Right.
And people say you're enabling somebody if you Narcan them. What I'm enabling is their next breath. And maybe with that next breath, they stand up and they say, this is the time I'm going to get help.
Maybe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the maybe is worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Not every person struggling is a criminal.
And even if they are,
Yeah.
most of them have
They want to be well.
done something illegal in order to feed their addiction because they are so desperate to not be sick. And I am not saying that there should not be consequences.
Right.
You know, we're
Yeah,
struggling with that in my town right now. You know, catalytic converters are being stolen at a pretty high rate in the Upper Valley area because they're worth something. But my question is, the people that are stealing them, if they were not dependent on a substance, would they be doing that?
Would they steal them?
And
Yes.
I would say 99.9% of them would not.
Amazing.
And so, yes, there has to be consequences, but we can't arrest our way, we can't jail our way out of this epidemic. So, consequences,
Say that again.
we can't arrest our way or jail our way out of this epidemic.
No.
It's a profound statement.
And it
Because if they don't get well when they're away, the cycle just continues. It doesn't stop.
and in my, you know, if I ran things, if I had $1 million, I would love to see certain jails just be complete treatment facilities.
We've talked about that many times.
You know, that if somebody is arrested and they have a substance use disorder,
You're onto something.
that there's levels, you know, so they have to work their way through the levels. And, you know, it's the first part would just be like intense therapy and meetings. And then the next one might be teaching some life skills and resume writing and therapy. And then the last one is, you know, therapy and
We've got the
job
time to serve
interviews and-
anyways. We've got the time to serve anyways. We
could
might as well
do
use it constructively.
Yeah.
Oof.
Instead of just warehousing people in jail and then they get out and they're just going to be doing the same thing.
What do you think the pushback would be on that? Well, Dottie, my God, I mean, what you're talking about.
Why
is
should
so
our
ex-
tax dollars pay for that?
I mean, who's going to pay for this and these programs? And this is
They're
expensive.
paying anyways.
And if
The
somebody
part that
can
they
get
don't see,
well,
they're paying anyway.
we're going to be paying a hell of a lot less in the long run because they're not going to be cycling through treatment or jail, treatment or jail.
They're going to become productive members of society. That's the goal.
Right. Wow. I'm at a loss for words here. Raylene, help me out. Bail me out here. I'm just. This is how I am. And Raylene knows this. I process things.
So I'm going to read.
I
I'll read
digest. I digest at times slowly.
Slowly.
I process
But
slowly.
she's going to tell some stats.
You're hitting me left and right here, Dottie. Take it easy.
Well, I found a quote this morning Brene Brown is a social worker. She lives out in Texas area. She does a lot of work around shame and stigma. I always say I want to be her when I grow up. And I was just looking on her Facebook page today, and she had a quote up, and it says, "Here's what's truly at the heart of wholeheartedness: worth now, not if, not when." And that's what we have to impart to people, whether it's somebody who has a substance use disorder or people who don't understand it, that the people who are struggling are worth the work now, not someday, but now.
It's got to be tough when you have a, for lack of a better term, a client, a patient, someone that you're working with who has given up on themselves or has lost hope, but you have it for them, and how to instill that in them.
And our community and
our
their
community.
family members at the same time. The job,
Right.
your job doesn't stop with just the patient. That's the
No.
thing,
No.
is that,
God.
I mean, I can't imagine for me as a mom how things would be for me right now without you. Like, you are that important to me. And I say that all the time. You know, she says she gives herself downtime, but I've messaged you at 1 o'clock in the morning,
You have.
having an absolute breakdown. Yes. And she's there. And when I don't understand.
We're not talking about once here, are
Oh,
we?
no. No. Not even close to once. I wish it was only once, but that's not the case. And I think that that's another part we all need to realize. It's okay as a parent or a community member to seek help, because you are going for a total different reason. You're seeking help for knowledge. You are seeking help so that you can help your addicted child or your addicted neighbor, or just because Dottie works with people who use substances and abuse substances doesn't mean she's not available for me, who just wants to understand what's happening.
Right.
And the same with Paul Brody or Rick. They're available for you to make a connection or to understand.
Yeah. And the important thing, and Raylene and I have talked about this, is baby steps, and that more often than not, sometimes it's one step forward, 2 steps, and maybe even 3 or 4 steps back. But for the patient, the client, to understand that you guys are invested in the long haul, regardless of whether it's a bad day, a bad week, a bad month. Maybe it's a bad month, and then it's a friggin' awesome month.
Yeah,
and then
I've
it's a shitty month on the backside of that.
Yeah, I've had people say to me, you know, you're going to be disappointed in me. You know, I screwed up. And my response is always, but you're here today. You know, that.
And you're saying, I screwed up.
Yeah. You know, okay, you had a relapse. Let's look at why it happened and how do we move forward.
What did you used to do over at Valley Vista with writing notes?
Oh, on the quotes?
Yeah.
I would every
My
Saturday. I like during the week I would look for quotes that I don't know if the community was struggling with something, or if I knew somebody was struggling with something in particular, or sometimes it was just a quote that hit me and then it ended up meaning something to somebody. I would print off copies of it and just put it on the beds on Saturday when I left for the weekend. Just something to think about. You know, it's those really small things that we can all do.
Sure.
To let somebody know they're cared about. You see somebody walking down the street who doesn't look great, look them in the eye and just say hi.
Yeah. But we have fear, Dottie. I don't want to get involved mentality. I got my kid right next to me. I got my wife right next to me, whatever. I don't want to get involved. At the absolute least, pick up the phone and call the authorities and say, hey, check this guy out over here.
Yeah, I'm worried about somebody.
Right.
Don't put blinders on and pretend it's not happening.
We do. We do.
You know, and I am grateful that, you know, Hartford, the town of Hartford, years ago they started a community coalition and they started working with educating people on substance use. They run an amazing food program every summer for residents, delivering it, having places for it to pick up. So this coalition just really kind of took a look at what was needed in Hartford.
Sure.
And, you know, and then the Vigil, you know, we have been wholeheartedly welcomed every year to do this, and
Where?
I'm grateful for that. It's at Lyman Point Park in White River Junction, Vermont.
It was last summer.
Last summer, we had to do it
Zoom.
on Zoom or Facebook Live because of COVID. This year,
Where-
our fingers are crossed. It's in person.
All right. When? What's the date?
August 31st. It starts at 6 o'clock. Lyman Point Park, White River Junction, Vermont.
Lyman
Point Park.
Park.
Yep.
In
And
White
we will
River Junction.
also be doing it on Facebook Live again this year. So I'm going to just want to read this quickly.
Please do. And Raylene, will you be there?
Yes, I plan to go there because we can't have it here this year.
We can't have it right here in Barrie.
Right. So next year, though, we will. We will
Okay.
have it here.
So our Facebook page for the Vigil is Hartford, Vermont International Overdose Awareness Candlelight Vigil.
Holy
I don't
crap.
think we could have come up with a longer title, but that's what it is.
All right.
So
Raylene, can we?
We'll get it before she
I'll leave
goes.
that-
Yes,
yeah,
we
before she
absolutely.
before she walks out of here, we're going to tackle her.
Yes.
Put her
we'll
in a
make sure we
chokehold.
have everything that we need.
it'll
We-
take me 3
yeah,
days to write the title,
yeah,
but I'll
we'll
do
make
it
sure
for you.
that we have everything.
I want you to say it again slowly, one more time for
Yes,
folks.
it's Hartford, Vermont International.
Hold on.
Is it VT or Vermont spelled
It's
out?
Vermont spelt out because,
Okay.
you know, we couldn't shorten it that way either.
Right, right.
Hartford, Vermont International.
Overdose
Yeah.
Awareness
Mm-hmm.
Candlelight
Mm-hmm.
Vigil. And if anybody is out there listening and has the name of a friend or a relative that has passed away and they would like to add it to the memorial list that I read at the Vigil, they are welcome to send me a Facebook message or Facebook message our page, and we will get the name on there. And it's usually first and last name. Sometimes it's just the first because that's what people are comfortable with, and that's fine. The age and the hometown and state.
Do you have email as well?
I do.
Do you want? Can we do?
Yeah, because I have one set up for this.
Please.
So it DOTTIE
Yeah.
MOFF
Mm-hmm.
ITT
Yep.
03
Okay.
at gmail.com.
All right. We got that right here on the page for people to see.
Perfect.
So final day of August, 6 p.m.
Yep.
in White River Junction.
Yep. And I will take names right up until last year we had people posting names on our Facebook page as I was
As
doing
you
the
were reading.
and you know they were just brought up to me and I added them on at the end.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we want to make sure people are remembered. You know
I think
that
it's and I think it's really amazing that you got paramedics, EMTs that are the authorities that the municipalities that are there saying, "Hey, we're not your enemies. We're here to help."
Yeah, the
And
recreation department helps us. They let us use a lot of their supplies as well.
what a wonderful thing
Yeah.
that would be to bring to the Granite
Here.
City.
Yeah. We
Because-
are all part of the story.
We
That's
are.
the
We
thing.
are. You're
Every
right.
single one of us.
And just looking at statistics.
Yeah, please, because I saw all those numbers written down, and I'm like, I'm not letting you get out of here without firing off this, because you've done a lot of work here.
All right. So in the United States in 2020, 93,000 people died due to overdose. It was a 29.4% increase from 2019. 69,710 deaths involved opioids, an increase from 50,963 in 2019. There was a 57.6% increase in overdose deaths in Vermont, and we had 186 Vermonters die due to overdose. 417 New Hampshire residents died due to overdose in 2019. Currently, 80 Vermont residents have died due to overdose, which is higher than the 3-year average from 2018 to 2020.
Wait a minute, that's in the past year?
It's since January to May, actually. In 2021, we've had 80 people in Vermont.
January to May?
Yep. So in January, 14 people passed away. In February, 12 people, but there's still 2 death certificates pending. In March, 26 people passed away, 1 death certificate pending. In April, 15 people passed away due to overdose. In May, 13 people have passed away due to overdose, with 6 death certificates pending. In New Hampshire, 146 people in that same amount of time have passed away due to overdose, and they have 118 death certificates still pending in New Hampshire. And the county with the highest amount was Chittenden County, with 15 deaths in this year. Windsor County has had 11 deaths in 2021, and Washington, Bennington, and Rutland County have each had 9 deaths due to overdose.
Don't fold that up yet, because I want to make sure that everything you've written today is conveyed on the air. All of it. Is that everything? Because I want to make sure.
On the back was the alcohol statistics, which we sort of touched on. There was also a 19% rise in all adults in consumption of alcohol in between ages of 30 to 59. Between March and April 2020, so in just 1 month, in-person sales increased 54% at liquor stores, 262% online. 60% of people surveyed said their drinking increased during COVID, and 14.5 million people ages 12 and up are diagnosed with an alcohol use disorder yearly.
In America?
In America.
Wow.
So this isn't going away. So we have 2 choices. We continue to keep our blinders on, pretend it won't happen to us, it won't happen in our towns. Or we open our eyes, we recognize what's happening in our towns, to our community members, to our loved ones, and we figure out what we can do to help.
Absolutely.
What else do we say here to wrap up, Raylene? Because I don't want to cut this short. I mean, that's really
a great place to wrap it up.
That's profound stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, thank you so much for coming in here.
Thank you for having me again.
I hope it was worth the drive in the pouring rain.
It was worth the white knuckle driving.
Be careful going home, too.
I'm going to drive like a granny again.
Well, Windham County, Brattleboro, Bennington County, flood watch. I mean, in Washington and Orange, too. So no matter where you're driving, just go easy.
Slow and steady.
So that's the best way for folks to get in touch with you.
Yes.
And we just put it right here, Dottie Moffitt 03@gmail.com, where people can reach out on Facebook.
And please join on the 31st.
Yeah, whether you can come in person or we will be following whatever the most recent COVID protocols are.
Right.
Fingers crossed we're still going to be able to do this in person. But if not, we're ready to switch and just have it completely Facebook Live, but it will be on Facebook Live. So if you're from a distance away or you're not comfortable being in a crowd, please join us that way. Last year, we made sure that anybody who commented on the the reading of the names, we responded. We want you to know that we appreciate the gift that you're giving us by being able to read loved ones' names out loud, and that it really is our honor to be able to make sure that they are remembered.
What's I have to just say this. I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for Raylene. I mean, when I met Raylene, she's like, look, I'm not getting involved with any of this if you don't have Dottie Moffitt on the show. I mean, what's the matter with you? How come you haven't had Dottie Moffitt on the show? Don't you know Dottie Moffitt? Everybody knows Dottie Moffitt. I mean, she worships you. She worships you.
It has been reciprocated because, I see strength in people who struggle through this, whether it's themselves or loved ones, and just the not giving up. And
that's right.
It's what we have to do as a community. We need to reach out and support each other and not stigmatize and not give up.
Yeah.
And it's constant learning.
Yeah.
Every time I think I know and I have it, I don't.
Yeah.
And I have to be willing to accept that, stay open-minded, and ask. I'm never afraid to ask. I posed that question on Facebook so that I could get others' opinions.
Yeah.
And then I sent it
Yeah.
to Dottie,
That's right.
Rick, and Paul.
Wow. Brave thing to do.
And said, what say you? And they all told me pretty much the same thing. Even though they all have a different method
Sure.
with helping people recover.
Yeah.
They all pretty close to told me the same thing.
Which was?
Recovery comes before anything.
Wow. I've learned so much in just a few short months from folks like you. It's I don't have any direct experience with this.
I'm grateful you use your platform for this. It
Me
is
too.
an example of what can be done in a community when you're willing to listen and willing to say, I don't know anything about this and I want to learn more because I see it affecting people around me.
Yeah. Thank you. And please sneak back in here again, would you?
Of course. September's Recovery Month.
Yeah.
So
Yes. And right now is what month now?
August is
August.
Overdose
Awareness.
Yeah.
And September is Recovery Month.
Recovery
September
Month.
30th is Recovery Day.
All right. Sneak back in anytime.
I will. That's a good
You
month
just
to
have
celebrate.
to just invite yourself, or Raylene will. But we want to get you
see
back
me
in
hanging
here.
out outside the
Well,
window.
you should.
Yeah.
Well, you should. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thanks, Raylene.
Thanks.
Listen, if you like the podcast, tell your friends, follow the page, like, comment, and share all you can, especially episodes like this. We're so grateful. Aired Out is brought to you by Barstow Construction, Granite City MMA, Emsley's Florists and Gifts, K&W Tire, Gauthier's Quality Grounds and Maintenance, Fontaine Forestry and Millwork, Wright Electric, Donnybrook Fight Promotion, Barry Montpelier Times Argus, Vermont Custom Woodworking, Aeromed Essentials, retirementvt.com, and FGB Theaters.